Meeting to order. Would you please stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to see all of the community coming out tonight to one of our City Commission meetings. So, thank you. The first item on the agenda is a report from Mr. Steve Goins concerning the City of Shelton Poverty Task Force, and so I think it's your turn.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. We have the entire task force here today, and Jim Morrell, the chair, will be making a presentation. I thought I'd just take a moment, and I think most of the task force members are here. If they could stand up. Melanie just walked in the door. Jim will be providing a summary of our report. I just should add, from a staff perspective, really a hardworking group of people. You got your money's worth out of this task force. They really rolled up their sleeves and did a lot of work, and were very efficient, very thoughtful, and very complete. And I just wanted to say it was a real pleasure to work with them all.
All right.
Good evening. Mayor Krantz, Commissioner Olson, Commissioner Pinnell, and Commissioner-elect Moore. My name is Jim Morrell. I had the privilege of being chair of the Poverty Task Force, and I'm privileged also to bring with you tonight the results of several months and innumerable volunteer hours to support the city. The City of Shelton, as the website tagline states, that is committed to building a stronger community together. The agenda, the parts of the report that I'd like to go over, there's four main sections. A history section of how and why the Poverty Task Force was formed, a summary of the data we collected over the past several months, identification of 7 findings, and finally 21 recommendations for mitigating the impacts of poverty on our community. In total, the body of the report is 31 pages within a 190-page report when including all appendices. We encourage everyone to ask 3 main questions. Those 3 questions: can we afford not to act? Are you engaged? Is there some element of the mitigation program that you can implement or at least positively affect? The City Commission has an extremely important responsibility to ensure the information in this report is utilized and the recommendations pursued. The first section of the report is the history. Our history of the report of how and why the Poverty Task Force came into existence. Back in February of this year, the meeting of Coalition of Churches had an address by the mayor, which made it clear that the City of Shelton would be a critical entity in addressing poverty. On May 20th, an open letter to the Shelton City Commission, which was agreed to by more than 60 individuals, made several points. The great majority of needy people have roots or connections in Shelton. Many community groups, agencies, and foundations provide a significant amount of support. Some people believe that those being served are outsiders, and poverty is a major community problem. Placing blame is one option, or coming together as a community with leadership from the Commission is another. On July 8th, the City of Shelton Commission authorized the formation of a volunteer Citizen Poverty Task Force. The defined mission was to collect data and develop facts in order to propose recommendations that will mitigate the impacts of poverty in Shelton. Over 20 sources of data were collected by the Poverty Task Force over the last several months. The task force engaged in conversations with many people representing various organizations. Those that are on the screen, which have stars, are organizations which in large part are driven by community volunteers. The Community Kitchen, which began serving meals in 1998, Community Lifeline, which provides dinners 7 nights a week, and in 2012 served over 25,000 hot meals. provided 2,500 shelter bed nights and 2,200 hot showers. Love in the Name of Christ, which is a collaborative effort over the past 4 years of 20 partner churches. Saints Pantry, which year to date through September provided food to 38,486 individuals, with nearly 15,000 being under the age of 18 and 5,600 over the age of 55. The need, they have stated to us, is growing at about 9% per year. The Sunrise Clothing Bank is currently serving approximately 75 to 100 clients per day. The task force also engaged in 2 public forums on September 19th and October 26th. Some examples of the comments received during these forums included that we used to have a vibrant downtown. There are not enough resources to support the homeless or individuals with drug or alcohol issues. There is a need for more case managing programs. Observations about problems existing with dumpster diving and drug use and providing housing is not enough. We also received letters from citizens. Information in these letters included in the appendices to the report provide personal observations as well as offering solutions, such as bad behavior negates tourism growth and depresses property values. There was a wealth of additional information provided by other organizations and events. For instance, the Shelton School District provided data about the free and reduced lunch recipients, which is provided to 68% of the students, and that the living conditions during the 2012-2013 school year for 374 homeless children and youth include 63% of those students being doubled up in shelter, 23% living in shelters, and 13% being unsheltered. Other programs were also discussed, such as the housing options for students in transition and youth empowerment strategies. The Bridges to Prosperity event put on by Mason Matters was a 3-day event. The main purpose was to begin to create a common understanding about the culture of poverty. When Mason Matters came to spoke to the task force, they also provided the Community Health Improvement Plan, or CHIP data, which confirmed that poverty does exist. From conversation with the Mason County Health Department, statistics about lack of access to health care and housing assistance was shared, and the Adverse Childhood Experience Scores, or ACEs, was explained. ACEs results project homelessness and poverty accelerating and why intervention is needed. We also received information about the 211 Information and Referral Service Program, which is a resource to people for everything from training to programs for their teenage children and affordable housing options. The task force set out to further obtain information directly from a variety of additional sources. The task force wanted to know directly from the business community what impacts of poverty they were facing and how they believe it could be mitigated. The survey was distributed physically, and replies could be submitted online using SurveyMonkey or by returning a physical survey. There were 55 responses to the business survey. It also was determined important to hear and gather information from those in the Shelton community living in poverty and seeking services from agencies in downtown Shelton. These social services surveys were conducted in person with individuals who used Community Lifeline, Saints Pantry, and the Community Kitchen. In total, there were 174 responses, 55% of those being males, 45% females. Let's look at some of the results from the social services survey first. Almost 50% of the social survey respondents were over the age of 50. Of the 174 respondents, 15 respondents were veterans. Of those veterans, 47% have permanent housing, either owning or renting their home, while 40% either live in their car or have no housing at all. Over 40% of the social survey's 174 respondents have either a high school diploma or GED. Overall, the data indicates 56% of the people either renting or owning their home, while 19% are transitional housing with family or friends in a homeless shelter. Another 18% are living on the streets or in the woods, and only 7% use makeshift housing such as a vehicle. Another important factor for the data was confirmation that most who are using the social services reside in Mason County. In fact, 50% have been here for 11 or more years, and another 35% have been here from between 1 to 10 years. All 174 respondents indicated a skill or ability they possess, such as 16% with construction skills, 16% with medical, dental, or mental health training, and 48% responded with other, not identifying their skill or talent, but confirming that they do have a background in some field. For the businesses survey, nearly 80% of the respondents were from the downtown corridor. The majority of these respondents, 59%, were business owners. 50% of the business survey respondents indicated how they cross paths with poverty. 80% indicated their customers deal with poverty, and 66% stated that this interaction takes place primarily outside of their business. An overwhelming 72% of the responses came back indicating that the frequency of poverty's impact on their business occurs daily. In fact, 56% of the respondents shared the largest impact of poverty on their business is bad or unwanted behavior. In Appendix C4 of your report, not only are the survey results provided, but also comments to open-ended questions asking to describe the impacts of poverty that people perceived on their business. For instance, most open-ended responses described bad behavior. Several cited drug or alcohol use, littering, graffiti, using the alley as a restroom, dumpster diving, loitering, panhandling, harassing employees and customers for free food, change, or cigarettes. There is a concern for safety of staff and customers, especially in the evening when lighting is poor, and from those perceived to be mentally ill walking around exhibiting aggressive behavior. Finally, the business survey provided some responses about actions of policies helpful in mitigating these impacts on their business. The top 4 most common responses included jobs and training programs, increasing law enforcement and regulations, conversations, collaboration and awareness efforts, and medical and mental health programs. The next section of the report has to do with our key findings. The task force's charter was to collect data and develop facts in order to propose mitigations to ease the impacts of poverty. It was determined not to be part of the scope of the task force to solve poverty. The task force did see the necessity of examining, however, the root causes of poverty, and we used an analogy during our discussions that when someone has water damage in their home due to a leaky roof, the focus is preventing additional damage by fixing the roof. If we don't focus efforts on fixing our roof or stemming the extent of poverty in our community, the water damage, or the impacts from poverty, they will continue to occur. The key findings begin with the observation that good work is being done, but there are opportunities for better communication and collaboration. A large number of agencies, organizations, and community groups are evident in the Shelton area, and all are doing good work to address the needs of those living in poverty. However, often the work of these groups is unconnected without clear channels of communication and coordination, fostering possibilities for duplication, redundancy, and misuse of scarce community resources. The city cannot try to manage the many nonprofits and likely does not have the financial resources to address the needs. The city can provide leadership, and city leaders can use their positions to influence financial and other assistance. Addressing poor behaviors is the second key finding. Bad behavior, such as public intoxication, threatening and abusive language, urinating in public, and so forth. We were unable to find a correlation between bad behavior and poverty. However, what was clear is that bad behavior is causing problems for local businesses. The task force heard from service organizations that provide services with no questions asked. Perhaps it would help to require a donation of time to assist with meals, cleanup, or to withhold services towards those acting out before receiving services. Another key finding was to find a way to restore hope. There is a culture of poverty that some middle and upper class individuals do not understand and cannot relate to. Individuals and families that were doing fine are now unemployed or underemployed, finding themselves in need of help and services, many for the first time in their life. The lack of affordable and accessible mental health options is also apparent. Most folks have encountered someone on the street speaking or yelling to themselves or otherwise exhibiting some unusual form of social behavior. Adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, as I mentioned before, is shown by a lot of research to be linked to high risk for homelessness, impaired job functioning, and criminal justice involvement. Mason County is affected by generational poverty, acutely impacting youth. Generational poverty is a cycle of poverty where poor families become trapped in poverty, lacking the knowledge and skills to escape. Of the 374 identified homeless youth within the Shelton School District, 22% are unaccompanied youth living without parents or a guardian, and 36% are living outdoors or in a shelter. This is a rise of 400% over the last 4 years. Some students seem to have the view that the city has turned their back on them, and there are limited opportunities for after-school activities and fun things to do. Another key finding is focus on economic development. The general lack of living wages in Mason County is the key driver behind the high number for commuters, over 43% driving outside the county for work. This creates a class of working poor and families and individuals trying to survive on minimum wages. A lack of safe, affordable housing exists in our community. The community suffers from a lack of general, affordable, safe housing units. The per capita income for Mason County is amongst the lowest in Washington State, placing even modest rental costs out of the reach of many. In summary, poverty is not going to be solved, but the recommendations could address its impacts, influence positive changes, and hopefully over time affect lives. The real question is, can we afford not to act? With this in mind, let's turn to the Poverty Task Force's recommendations. The issue of poverty in the city of Shelton goes beyond the city. It is a community problem. We ask that the city commissioners share the Poverty Task Force's report with the Mason County and Port of Shelton commissioners, elected representatives and agencies at the state and federal level, and local organizations such as the Shelton Mason Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development Council of Mason County. The Shelton City Commissioners have the opportunity to take a leadership role in the efforts to address poverty in our county. The first comprehensive recommendation is for the City Commission to form an ongoing city citizen poverty task force to work in conjunction with local leadership to address the viabilities of these recommendations and the process for implementing them. We suggest a monthly update to the Commission regarding progress of the implementation of this poverty task force's recommendations. The second comprehensive recommendation is regarding the city's decision-making process. It is recommended that the city consider the potential unintended consequences on people experiencing poverty when making decisions. Under the general theme of improving communication and collaboration, the first recommendation is to establish a single source for help. We recommend the city explore and foster the creation of a central coordination function with an existing agency such as the United Way of Mason County, tasked with attending, communicating, and coordinating with service providers, agencies, and groups with current and credible information about community programs, service delivery. The second, collaboration with the city, using the central coordination effort to identify grants available to fund the city's joint effort with local agencies, service providers, and others to maximize their collective input. Evaluating potential overlaps in services. The central coordination effort can be used to explore opportunities for efficiencies and better coordination and synergy. And finally, developing a one-stop shop for services. An example of this is the North Mason Resource Center in Belfair, an effort to put several services under one roof. Under another broad theme, addressing poor behavior, the Poverty Task Force recommends that you give law enforcement tools to address behavior, such as approving a dumpster diving ordinance, reducing unwanted access to dumpsters behind businesses, adopting a pilot downtown ambassador program similar to the program developed in Olympia and more like the one in Phoenix, Arizona. This program should focus on engagement, referral, and advocacy for persons in need, coupled with advocacy for businesses. Getting started sooner than later is possible through coordinated efforts with the existing community organizations. Additional police presence has also been well received by the business community. Providing additional public restrooms would be helpful, and the city should look at how to do this. Increasing lighting in the alleyways, reestablishing existing lighting on the city streets, which we understand to already be under consideration, and we believe it would be helpful to look for ways to illuminate alleyways as well. Under the category of restoring hope with community coordination, jobs, and training programs, the city should explore, participate, and support the Mason Matters Bridges to Prosperity effort, create Creative housing options need to be evaluated, including better communication with landlords, evaluating programs and outreach to address employment opportunities and training programs. Perhaps this can be accomplished by working more closely with organizations such as Olympic College or WorkSource. Also, there is potential to provide volunteer service opportunities for users of safety net services. By helping people get engaged, they too become part of the solution to mitigating the impacts of poverty. Under the umbrella of focusing on youth, we believe this would be helpful for addressing the effects of adverse childhood experiences and pursuing that effort. A focus and effort on reducing generational poverty needs to be made, and the city can partner and provide support to local organizations, such as sharing its support to Mason County for youth empowerment strategies or the YES program, to use the old St. Edward's Rectory. And finally, under supporting economic development, this can be further supported by the city in the following ways. The city should partner with the county, port, economic development council, and chamber to promote and attract business to the area. And the city should establish a separate task force comprised of the business community, including representatives from the Shelton Mason Chamber and EDC, to identify the barriers that may be hindering business growth and enhanced economic development. Recommendations for strategies for attracting and partnering with businesses locating in Shelton should be made as part of this process. Commissioners, on behalf of the other members of the City of Shelton Poverty Task Force, we trust this report will assist the City of Shelton's commitment to building a stronger community together.
Thank you very much, Jim. I appreciate your report. You did a wonderful job in summarizing the report. I think it was very to the point. I just got it yesterday, and I read it once, and then I kind of went through the appendix kind of once, and so from my personal standpoints, I have a lot here to kind of absorb. We asked you to do what you did, and I would have to say, from me, you did an excellent job for what we asked you to do, and you did it in a very quick time frame. There's a lot of information here, and I saw a lot of things that I kind of liked in here that I think are really beneficial for this community. One important thing is we're all in it together. There's no doubt about that. Nobody can shut their eyes and say that this is going to get better by itself. And so I don't want to go too far into some of these things, because I think we as a commission have to talk about it and look at it, but I think you did an excellent job. Your group did an excellent job, in my opinion, on putting together what we asked you to do. And I'm sure my fellow commissioners have other things that they'd like to maybe say at this time or whatnot about that.
Thank you very much for that. And really, one of the values of working in a team is the various perspectives that come together from all of our backgrounds and walks of life and perspectives. I think we came together in many respects in this report. At a minimum, one of the opportunities this task force, I think, allowed the community was to have a civil, data-based conversation rather than escalating different sides or perceptions of an issue. And when you have that kind of civil discourse, I think it's better for everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like the idea of having an ongoing task force. I think that's a great recommendation, and to have more involvement with the commissioners on a meeting basis so that we can flush out some of these ideas that you've had. And just to touch on a couple things, personally, since I've been a commissioner, I've been involved in a number of groups that are, in conjunction with this. One of them being the Mental Health and Substance Abuse Committee that's being funded by a sales tax increase from the county. And to give you an update on that, this week we will start looking at some of the proposals brought forth to make recommendations to the county commissioners for implementing some of these things. So it ties in real well with your recommendations and so forth. And the other one is Mason County, or Mason Transit Authority, in the new community center that will be constructed this year. And not only have they been involved in a number of these programs for the youth, they will continue that, and possibly partnership with YMCA is on the table for that. And also they're going to be putting a fully functional commercial kitchen in there that will tie in with educational opportunities with the college possibly in a culinary arts degree. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that there's a number of things in the background I'm sure that you're aware of that you've come out of this with, and that I'm very impressed with the community turnout of people that want to help with this condition in our community like that. It's pretty impressive that there's so many people out there this involved.
There's an amazing amount of synergy, Commissioner, around this issue that I think, if allowed, has many potential positive outcomes, and those that you mentioned being a start of those, and others that I know that are in the works
Absolutely.
as well. So, thank.
Just a quick comment. You are to be congratulated on a job very well done. I was very impressed with the quality of the report in really a very short time. So thank you to the task force for putting that together and giving us a lot of good information. And I guess my hope would be that it's not one of those reports that gets done and put on a shelf somewhere, that it continues to be a living, breathing document that changes as things are solved and new things are added. So that's my hope.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jim. Appreciate it. All right, what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk just for a second about our weekly commission reports, and then there's general public comment. So if anybody wants to talk a little bit more about this, we will have an opportunity here in about 30 seconds or more. So, Commissioner Pennell?
I have no report.
Commissioner Olson?
Tomorrow, Mason Transit Authority Board, and then, as I stated earlier, on Wednesday, I'm on the committee to evaluate the proposals from for the mental health and substance abuse implementation.
And I, on Wednesday, will be traveling with our city administrator back over to Olympia again, looking for money. We're going to be meeting with Brian Bonlender, and he is, I believe, with the Department of Commerce. And so we're looking for funding for some of the projects that we've already done and are doing in the city of Shelton. Also on Friday, I'll be attending the Economic Development Council board meeting and luncheon. And so that concludes our commission reports. Now is the open public general comment period. So if anyone would like to say something now, maybe concerning this property task force, now would be the opportunity to do that. Just a name and a phone number and address, social security number, bank numbers, all that stuff. Just kidding. All right. Charles, right?
You betcha, sir.
Very good, Charles. Good.
Happy holidays, everybody. When I first showed up there, commission meeting, I'll show some pictures. We're doing pretty good. I got the shopping cart out. I'll get this one out here when I leave tonight, too. I don't run inside. And you've got the parks back open. Thank you. I appreciate that. Moving on, this long line at the suitcase or at St. Patrick. That's why I'm next and what I'd like to see. And the timing's really good, okay? So we're getting in here, everything's looking, I'm impressed too. Thank you, task force member. That was well done. I like that. And I see a lot of the same things that they do. I think in particular, the one-stop shopping idea, the Mason County list of resources is either get it on 8.5 by 17, or if you get it on 8.5 by 11, the print is so fine, you can't, it's overwhelming. It's impossible, You don't know where to go, you're kind of lost in this world. That would be a good implementation. Would you consider me on this, wherever you go with this, whether it be a pilot project or possibly an additional task force to look further into this? Would you consider me to be on that? Should I seek an appointment?
I think we just put out the list, and whoever wants to be on those things, we have a regular, if we do that, okay, remember, we just got this, so if we do that, then I think we put out a solicitation or whatnot, and I'm sure you come to these meetings, so that would be...
There's no conflict of interest on my part,
well,
I'm the victim here.
Right.
So, I got a lot, I got like a vested interest in what's going on.
I don't think we shut anyone out from being able to apply to be on any of these groups, so...
Okay. I don't know how that works. I'm new at this, So are you, actually.
Yeah, only a couple of years. I feel old, but...
Have you read the book, let me see, Where Do We Go From Here?
I'd like to know. I might not have read it, but it'd be a good thing to know.
The question you asked yourself when you assigned this task force, where do I go from here? You know,
Right.
that's a Martin Luther King book. You know, it's where he developed his beloved community and the 6 steps towards resolution. You guys did the information gathering. Step 2 is education. So, and it's defined as a process for developing articulate leaders with have knowledge of the issues. It is directed toward the community through all forms of media and the real issues and human consequences of an unjust situation. I think it would be a pretty good model.
Sounds good.
Okay?
Thank
for
you,
your time.
Charles.
Huh?
Next on the list is Toby Kevin.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, staff. The usual suspect here. I reflect on standing at this very rostrum, I guess it was June, and being one of several to suggest this. So I am here to offer, as they say, I come not to bury Caesar, but to praise him. The commission and the task force have far exceeded my expectations, and I offer my thanks and congratulations. I've had the opportunity to attend a number of the meetings of the task force, and would add my praise and thanks to them as one who watched them work. And I think if you haven't been a member of the task force or watched them work, you really won't get your arms around about how much they did. There were individuals who walked business to business in all of the 3 major areas. Just hour after hour of hands-on gathering of data. And then the way that they, Jim pulled them together to collaborate and deal with conflicting opinions and formed a team. And I'm just absolutely impressed. It occurs to me that then starting with June, when we first kind of stirred the beast here, a number of things happened. Jim Morrell just alluded to the Bridge Prosperity activity that went on. Certainly this massive data collection job that the task force has done have seriously raised the visibility within our community of this issue. And I'm not going to repeat the things that Jim said. It's clear that it's a significant issue. It's clear that it's a community issue. What has struck me, both listening to the people who testified to the task force and the many encounters with people at the Bridge to Prosperity, this is existential. This is not just, an issue. This is not just a problem in our community. When you look at the trends, school lunches, various other markers over the past 10 years, even though there's been a recovery, all the trends continue to deteriorate. So this is not something that's nice to do. In a doomsday scenario, this could significantly affect the future of this town. Not to diminish in any way the recommendations that the task force has made. I'm trying to add, I think, severity to what they're saying. So, as the man just said, where do we go from here? I would suggest that this is a springboard, and I think the task force have made this eminently clear. It's a heck of a beginning, but it's a beginning. It's just that. Certainly, I want to particularly endorse the idea of engaging all levels of government, local up to federal, and not just mail them a copy of the report, because it's not the kind of thing that people want to see. I think that it would be very useful to make additional paper copies of the report available to individual citizens, just because something of this volume is going to be tough to read off a computer screen. I will see to it that I get a copy to the public library, and it might be a good idea to mention on the website that one's available for checkout, and that certainly leverages it a lot.
Could you wrap?
I'm about to do that. Thank you for the cue. The task force deserves our gratitude and our thanks. And I would offer the same to the commission for sponsoring it, and hope that you will continue to support similar activities. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Next, Mr. Tom Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Tom Davis, 170 West Bushy Road. There is nothing in that report that I disagree with. I think it's an excellent report. As reports go, I think some of the points can't be overemphasized. One of the things is that the Poverty Task Force has identified the magnitude of the poverty condition in Shelton and Mason County. Now we all know it. Now there's no dispute any longer. This is important because we can all come together on something that we can all agree on. And so they have served, if for only that reason, they have served a very good purpose and a very constructive purpose for this county. A couple of points I'd just like to reiterate, and that there's no connection between bad behavior and poverty. I think that's another important point that we all need to take to heart. The need for an ongoing city citizen poverty committee, absolute necessity. There are many good reports that are detailed that wind up on a shelf. This cannot be one of them. So whatever this board deems necessary to do along those lines would be well appreciated. Adopting an ambassador program is an extremely constructive way to deal with poverty. It is a first step. It is a usefulness step. It is where people feel their own value, and that is the first step up from poverty. There is one thing that is missing, or one thing that I would like to add, more accurately so, and that is a mentorship program. Recently, as you know, I attended Washington, D.C. for the Veterans Mentorship Boot Camp program, where we will mentor veterans. It's one segment of the demographic of poverty that I think is most worthy, at least in my heart. Unless you get your hands dirty, unless you get down and talk with people one-on-one and avail them of your experiences of life that have worked out for you, and save them the trouble of making similar mistakes that you might have made in your past, unless you connect with people one-on-one, then this all goes by the by. And I think this community has shown itself to be able to do that. And I would encourage this board to support a mentorship program that deals with the condition of poverty in Shelton and Mason County. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Appreciate your comments there. We will have another opportunity later on in the program for public comment. We do, again, all the commissioners do appreciate the work that the Poverty Task Force did, and we will be looking into this. Thank you. Next, we are going to recess out of our regular open meeting, and we are going to open up a public hearing. So we're recessing out of our regular meeting, and now we are going to be going into the public hearing, and Mr. Steve Goins is going to present something to us.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. This is a public hearing that will really achieve two objectives for us tonight. We have a request to amend our contract with the Community Development Block Grant folks, the CDBG grant we currently have, raising the grant amount from $825,000 to $1 million. We are requesting that in part because the project has a need for additional funding to be made whole. We requested from the CDBG staff the ability to do this, and found through our process and our discussion that they have the ability of funding projects like this up to $1 million. The amendment that was in your packet reflects that request, and we talked about this in the briefing last week. The other item is a requirement from the federal's brought down to us about meeting certain transparency requirements within this process. There's a great deal of scrutiny that goes into this money, how it's utilized, and that the reporting process of that. One of those criteria is providing an update report. Deb Nielsen from the Mason County shelters here to also provide that report, so we're sort of killing two birds with one stone with this public meeting. From the staff perspective, our first order of business is to consider the amendment to the contract, increasing it by $175,000. That would be having the mayor authorized to sign the attached amendment, as well as authorizing the city administrator to make the necessary budget modification for that effort. The second part of the program tonight is Deb Nielsen. So I think I'll have her come up and she can give you a brief report on the project itself.
Very good. Come forward.
Good evening, Commissioners. Good evening, Mayor. Thank you for allowing me to be here. First, I want to say thank you to Steve Goins, Dennis McDonald, Mike Michael, Jason Dose. Who am I missing? Nicole at the front desk. Greg Clark. All of the city staff have been so supportive of our project, and it has been an uphill battle, to put it mildly. But it takes a team, as the task force says. So I'm thankful that we're on the same team. And so we're moving forward with that. So this is a status report. For those of you who haven't seen the building, it's located at 71 Sargason Loop, which is headed up Highway 3 south, right? It's kind of a backwards definition, but that's where it is. Can't miss it. And I'm happy to see it coming about because, as the task force indicated, we need services to homeless people, which is what this building will serve, and then the corresponding building that's outside the CDBG grant but in the project will be 8 affordable housing apartments for low-income folks. So we are moving forward step by step. Painful though it may be, it's worth it in the end. So right now the building is completely framed. I've submitted a picture to the secretary and she can share that with you folks. Thank you. That's the outside of the building and one shot from the inside.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
We got them.
It's real. The roofing should be completed this week. The plumbing is roughed in and interior and exterior. The electrician's done their work. Roughing in HVAC is being under construction. Fire sprinkler is started. Doors and windows should be in this week. The siding should be finished by January 3rd. There's some concrete work that's been done, site contracting on storm drains. I drove by today and there were people in concrete holes all over the place over there working like little bees. It was wonderful. Water lines, fire lines, grading for the parking lots. Estimated completion date for the shelter itself is the end of February 2014. Hopefully we can meet that date, and then I understand there's a whole bunch of inspection things that have to go on after that for occupancy. CDBG funds expended to the contractor to date are $459,140.21, sorry. There are 2 draw requests in process as we speak in the amount of $221,341.31 for a total of $680,481.52, or 69.8% of the total funds. And that 69.8 I calculated on the total of $975,000, which is the contract amount to Mason County Shelter, assuming that it will be approved, assuming that it will move forward, being the positive thinker that we are. I couldn't have survived this long without it. And again, thanks to Dennis McDonald and Steve Goins and the whole city staff for making that whole process happen. It was a communication that they had when we had a shortfall in budget, which probably everyone who's had a project here has had a shortfall in their budget. And they had a conversation with CDBG and found an open door and knocked on it, and we're walking through that door, so we'll really appreciate that, as do the citizens that will be served for this for the next 40 years. So thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. So, Mr. Goins, we have a public hearing process on this, so are we open to hear those people speak now if they want to about that?
That's correct. If anyone wants to speak on this matter, this would be the opportunity.
So if anyone here would like to speak about this matter, now we have that opportunity during this public hearing. If we have people signed in, no. So if anybody would, if not, then that's okay. I think we are all looking forward to that project. It's been it's a good thing for the city of Shelton. All right, my fellow commissioners, are there any questions or comments about this? Seeing none, I don't have any either. I will now close this public hearing. We have now entered back into our regular commission meeting, and there's an action requested that the commissioners make a motion to authorize this increase in funds. And so I would entertain that at this time.
I would move that we approve this budget modification, compliant with city policy number 300-12, and authorize the mayor to sign.
And a budget modification?
What's that?
And budget modification.
Doesn't say that. Oh. I'll start over. I'll withdraw that motion and make the real motion. I would recommend that the commission authorize the mayor to sign the contract amendment number 2, increasing the 2012 CDBG grant to $1 million, and authorize the city administrator to make necessary budget modification.
I'll second the motion.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. The motion carries. Thank you. Next, we'll be going into our consent agenda and have my fellow commissioners had ample time to review the material in the consent agenda. I know they have because they always do. And so, Leslie Ann, can we please have a reading of the consent agenda?
Consent agenda, vouchers numbered 82329 through 82423 in the amount of $800,358.94. Payroll warrants numbered 70490 through 70671 in the amount of $629,657.34. Transfer and banking fees in the amount of $41,528.48. Commission meeting minutes of study session of October 14th, 2013. Business meeting of October 21st, 2013. The 2014 City of Shelton Work Plan. Wastewater treatment plant improvements, HVAC corrections and upgrades. Authorize the mayor to sign the contract with Sunset Air, Inc. when received back from contractor after concurrence of the award by United States Department of Agriculture, Rural Development. 2013 through 2015 on-call engineering services contract pool. Authorize the mayor to sign the contracts with Excel Tech Consulting, Inc., SCJ Alliance, Jerome W. Morissette and Associates, Parametrics, Gray and Osborne, Inc., and BCH Consultants, LLC, as they are returned to the city. Washington State Patrol Interagency Agreement with the City of Shelton Missing and Exploited Children Task Force. Authorize the mayor to sign.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as read?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second the motion.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The consent agenda passes. There is no old business at this time, but there is a few new business items, and the first would be a resolution that will be presented to us by Mr. Greg Clark.
Yeah, good evening, Commissioners. We have before us this resolution to basically set a public hearing for next month on January 21st, where we will be looking at how we've done in meeting our goals for water efficiency. Of course, here in Shelton, we are very concerned about using our water efficiently, and we've set goals back in 2007. And it's time every 6 years we're to review those goals and set new goals. And so staff is preparing a report that will be distributed and available for the public on January 6th for a 2-week review period, at which point we'll end at the public hearing on the 21st to take input from the public and to hear any concerns the commissioners have and to look at those goals that we're establishing for the next 6 years. So again, this is just a resolution to set that public hearing for January 21st, which is a Tuesday evening because Monday is the holiday, and so that's that.
All right, are there any questions or comments from Mr. Clark? Hi, so this is also not only water quality, but is pressure also part of that? The goals is...
Well, this specific is on our job in using water efficiently. So it looks at how we've done in water leaks and basically making sure our system is tight and that the metering is done properly. There's a lot of things that go into it, but we had 3 goals, and I don't have them in front of me, but we'll give a report on how we did in meeting those goals, and then set new goals for the next 6 years.
And this is required by by the DOH, Department of Health, and it's something we do every 6 years.
Correct.
So we do it if we want to do it, doesn't matter, we got to do it, right?
We have to.
Sounds good. So it sounds like we are in concurrence that we place this on the consent agenda for December 23rd.
January 21st, well, on the consent, yes. I'm sorry.
December 23rd?
Right.
I got a December 23rd on my fine print, so that's just before Christmas. Is my print correct? All right, then, are we in concurrence with you on that?
Yes.
That's when we're going to do it. All right. Sounds good. Thank you very much. Next item is number 2 under new business, and it's Vicki Look will be presenting a briefing on the Timberland Regional Library Board of Trustees appointment.
Good evening, Commissioners. As you know, we still do appoint an advisory board to the Timberland Library, and we had a vacancy created by the resignation of Eileen Oberg. And we have now received a letter of interest from Marianne Hughes, and she has participated in the group and now would like a formal appointment. And Patty Ayala Roths, the library director, has sent in her recommendation that the City Commission appoint Marianne Hughes for a term that would expire at the end of 2017.
All right, any questions or comments? Looks good, so I think we will do that place that on the consent agenda for December 23rd. Thank you very much. Next item of business is the City of Shelton Financial Services Labor Contract, and Vicki Look is going to present that to us also.
We had one contract that was up for negotiations this year, and that was with the Financial Services Group. And we have talked to them, met with them a few times, and they have tentatively agreed with the city that they would have the same benefits extended to them that the majority of our other bargaining units have received, which is for 2014 and 15, a 1% increase and a salary adjustment, and an increase of $75 per year for medical increases. So I think that's pretty much all they ask for. They know times are hard, so I would ask that you entertain approving this contract for the Financial Services Group.
So we need a motion at this time.
I would ask that you put it on for next week on the consent agenda if the Commission's willing to do that.
Any questions or comments about this? We read the information and it looks good. So we will place that on the consent agenda for December 23rd.
Thank you.
All right, we're moving right along. I was thinking it was going to be a 2-hour meeting, but it's only going to be a 1-hour meeting, maybe tonight, maybe not. Administration report, Mr. O'Leary.
I'll try to help you keep there, Your Honor. I think you mentioned the EDC meeting on Friday that you're planning to attend over at Colonial House. I happen to be the speaker for that. So,
all right.
Anyway, so then you and I will be going to see Mr. Bonlander on Wednesday, and I think that covers all the interesting things I'm doing this week.
We next have this opportunity, general public comment. If anyone else would like to say, the 3 ladies from Elma, I believe, if you'd like to come up and speak now, it'd be a great time. Did you want like 5 or 10 minutes each? Or welcome to Shelton. You're from Elma, is that right? Yeah. Okay, welcome, and thank you very much for attending our commission meeting. We appreciate when young people take an interest in government. And so during this general public comment period, I was going to make a comment, and I think I'll pretend I'm the general public here. And I did read the Poverty Task Force, and one thing that Mr. Davis said, and him and I have had our differences obviously over the past, but in this point I would agree with him 100%. And that's if the community individually could take the responsibility of the people in our community, their needs, whether it's through drug addiction or whether it's poverty, whether it's mental health, whether it's crime. If the individuals would look out at their own families, their own neighbors, and they would take a responsibility to endeavoring to reach out individually, aside from any group that we have, and we have a lot of fantastic groups, this issue of poverty could be eliminated. Now, I can't make that happen, but I do know, and this is, I want to make sure, this is not to brag about what I do, because I don't need any praise or glory for this, but for 35 years, I have taken an individual into my home that's been a drug-addicted person, an alcoholic, a mentally ill, a youth, and I have endeavored to have them live in my home. And every time one leaves, another one comes. And this, nothing to do about me, but this is how you do it, is through mentorship. And I've seen a very small, probably a 20 or 30% success on that, but it's a life experience. It's committing to help those that we know, we live with, whether it's relatives or friends or a kid that you know. But if you take just one at a time and you spend that mentorship time with them, many of these groups wouldn't have anybody coming to their doors because we would be stepping up and doing what we all really need to do. And so poverty will always be with us. There is no magical cure, but if each one of us took the time to mentor the people around us, because they need to get out of the situation. If it's a bad situation, whether it's drug addiction, poverty, mental illness, they need to get out of their environment. And where are they going to go? If they can get into a program, but if they won't go into a program, then maybe it would require somebody offering that bedroom or that house or that business or that job. And that's what I think is really one part of the answer here. But again, we all do what we can do, and we are working together towards this. So that's my comment under the general comment period. Administration, final touches.
You all set?
Mr. Clark, how you doing there in Public Works? Everything working out? You building roads and connecting sewers up and everything working out okay? Fantastic. All right. Our next meeting will be December 23rd at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. This meeting is adjourned.